But Rongan, I'm really interested because I've heard you speak quite a lot about, and you even mentioned it at the beginning of this conversation, really, that you used to be someone who seeked, validation, external validation. So I'm interested, what caused the shift for you to then start going on this journey of kind of more self-discovery and looking inwards and looking at, these definitions of what is success, what is happiness?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I guess trying to answer that, where did it all start? So that's causing me to reflect a little bit. I think it's quite clear to me when this started. It started when my dad died, and this March that'll be 8 years. So I live in the northwest of England. I went off to Edinburgh Uni, a medical school. I was working there as a doctor for a couple of years, but I moved back to the northwest to help my mum and my brother look after my dad, who was really sick. He'd had to retire from work suddenly. His kidneys had failed. He was on dialysis 3 times a week for 15 years, and
Wow.
really influenced the early part of my adult life until dad died. All revolved around my dad's health. So my 20s and my sort of early to mid 30s. And when dad died, I mean, I was broken.
Mm.
I was completely broken. It took up so much time, physical time and mental time in my life. I lived, 2 minutes away from mum and dad's. So there was this huge hole in my life. And my whole identity was wrapped up in being a carer for my dad. That's what I did. My friends knew that. My family knew that. My colleagues knew that. That was me. That's what Rongan does. He's a carer. So it took me quite a long time to really process that. So I remember I would walk a lot. I'd just go and just walk and think. And I really started to go into this whole idea of, whose life am I leading? Am I living my life, or am I living someone else's life? And that led me to change the way I practice medicine. I went off, traveled around the world to actually go on different conferences and courses, because I felt very frustrated that as doctors, particularly these days, I feel that we often medicate symptoms, we put sticking plasters on things, and often we really don't help people get to the root cause of their problems. And so, as I started to understand that and learn more, I just became fascinated with myself, why I made certain decisions. I think pain is always a great teacher
Mm.
for so many of us. I wish humans didn't need, or didn't seem to need, pain in order to make change, but it it does appear that for many of us we do need that pain point. For me, losing my dad dying was definitely one of those. And so I would really reflect. And then I actually started. It's interesting. I saw this guy who used to help me with my back. I used to have a lot of back problems, and uh, he'd do a lot of myofascial work. But he also helped to tune me into how we store our emotions in our body.
Mm.
And I remember so clearly and I tell the story of this in my first book about how I got rid of my back pain, which was, to do with my right foot. Really, a lot of it, 80% of it had gone, but I'd still get the odd niggle from time to time. But it wouldn't stop me doing anything. And I remember at my dad's funeral, and dad had a cremation, and I remember so well that after the ceremony, and the coffin comes out, the body comes out, and it goes into like the oven,
Mm. Yeah.
and you can see the heat inside. I think I've got this memory of an orange glow inside, and I saw my dad's body going, well, the coffin going in. And I remember in that moment feeling this tension in my right lower back
Oh, wow.
just vanish. I was like, did that just happen? I know I felt it. And I was, and since then it was like, oh, that final bit of tension's gone. And I now realize very clearly that the weight of looking after my father and all, really looking after the family, that was my role, I would hold in my back. And when my body saw the body going in, I thought, oh, that's it now. It's done. Like I don't have to look after anyone anymore. And so there's lots of little well, not small, but significant moments like that, which have helped me look inwards and try and figure out what drives my behavior. I've done a form of therapy called IFS, Internal Family Systems,
Hmm.
which frankly has been life changing. And just to be super clear, I'm not doing that therapy because I have a diagnosable condition, right? I've always been very curious. I always want to optimize. I always want to understand myself better. If I take up a sport, I want to understand it. I want to study it. I want to learn about it. I want to apply myself to it. So this was me applying all that to me and going, okay, why do you behave like this in certain situations? And I think the other thing that's really helped me, Alex, is in 2015, while I was on this journey of trying to help people by using less medication, more lifestyle means, I get offered my own BBC One show, Doctor in the House. And here's the funny thing about that. I mean, that was passion. You know, I didn't do that for fame or being well known. I did that because I had a real passion to say, hey, look, I want to show people just how many different conditions you can get significantly better or even reverse them in 6 weeks by making small, consistent changes to our lifestyle. And so I did that, 6 months of slog, hardly seeing my wife and my son or going around the country. And I get some really incredible results with these families, the things that I'm still most proud of in my career. And then the show comes out, and then you have to deal with Twitter.
Yeah.
And 99% is positive, 1% is brutally cutting and negative. And that bothered me. I thought, I don't understand this. Like, I've just helped all these families get better and they're happier, they feel empowered. Why are you attacking me? Oh, you didn't do it the right way. You should have used this therapy. You should have used that. I was thinking, hey, I get you've got an opinion, but have you just seen what's happened with these families? They've come off all their medication. They've done this. But I would be really upset. I wouldn't sleep for a few nights. And so being in the cauldron of having a public profile, it's very much sink or swim. You either figure out your own insecurities or you will literally be a prisoner to other people's thoughts and other people's views of you. So, I even the second season when it came out, I was better, but I still wasn't perfect. So I've learned, and I really do think that having a public profile has actually fast tracked my personal growth because it's brutal out there, right? If you are dependent, as I was, on how you feel about yourself, if that depends on what other people say, you know what? You're a prisoner. You're a prisoner. You can only be happy when other people are saying nice things about you or when other people act in a nice way around you. And so I've completely flipped that now. And the big thing I look for whenever I get friction in my day, I welcome it. I'm like, bring it on. Okay, what is this teaching me?
Yeah.
So it's really empowering because I'm no longer a prisoner. I can't control how other people behave with me. I can't control how a social media follower interacts with me, but I can control, or I can certainly use it as a mirror to look back on me and go, oh, why does that comment bother you? Oh, I see that comment bothers you because you've got a bit of an insecurity about this. Okay, cool. Let me work on that insecurity. And by doing that, I feel I become not quite bulletproof,
Hmm.
but I'm a lot closer to bulletproof than I was, to the point now where very few things bother me. But this has been 7 or 8 years of small incremental changes. Do you know what I mean? I didn't just wake up,
Yeah.
fall out of bed one day and go, hey, I'm chilled. I'm totally calm. So did that all make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think kind of what I'm getting from it is that, you had a significant change in lifestyle because of your father passing, because that was so much of your identity was tied up in being his carer and playing that role for yourself and the family and for him. And once that's been released from you, you talked about that moment of the in the cremation and your lower back, there was a literal release. And it's then you almost, what I'm getting is that you almost realize that you are holding on to something emotionally, which was creating something physical, which I guess once you kind of have a realization like that, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, you then go, oh, if I've been doing that in that area of my life, where else have I been doing it? And you start to then, like you said, you hold that mirror up in a lot more different areas and you go, oh, so someone said this to me on Instagram or Twitter and it's made me feel angry or annoyed. Okay, let's get that mirror back out. Why has it made me feel angry and annoyed?
It's so empowering, honestly, mate. It's so empowering because then you've brought control and autonomy and agency back to yourself. Like the amount of time we go, I'm reacting like this because of the way that person was to me. That person was out of order. They should never have talked to me like that. That, you know, we can that record can play out in our interactions with our parents, with our partner, with our children, with our friends. And I understand that. And I'm saying this with full compassion. There's nothing wrong if you react like that. I'm just suggesting, I'm just inviting people to go, hey, wait a minute. What if you just start to use that as a mirror and go, why? Why is that bothering me? Because here's the truth. When we are fully secure, safe and secure in who we are, the negativity doesn't bother us,
Mm-hmm.
but the positive stuff doesn't go to our head either.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm striving for, to get to that place where actually, you know what? I'm happy with who I am and what I do. And therefore, you know, it's not, listen, the way I look at negative criticism, you know, to be fair, I don't really get much anymore. And I would like to think that's because I put out a positive energy. You know, I don't put things out in a divisive way. I'm not looking for fights or controversy. It's just
Well,
not what I'm about.
could it be that you don't notice the negative as much, the negative comments as much?
Alex, you may have nailed it there. Maybe I don't see it. You know, we see what we give attention to. So you could be absolutely right there, mates. That's, you know, that's interesting. That's going to make me reflect a little bit. Maybe I don't see it. So thank you for that reflection, because I hadn't really noticed that. But it's, I don't know, it's, you know, if there is a negative comment, let's say, first of all, I figure out why might that bother me. Then I ask myself, is this true? Is there any truth to this? Because sometimes I can learn from it and go, you know what? They've got a point there. You know, I could have phrased that a little bit better. And you take the emotion out of it and go, okay, yeah, they've reacted in a certain way. They've been triggered. That's cool. But let me see through that and go, is there an element of truth there? Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Okay, cool. I can learn from that. Or, you know what? No, I'm pretty happy with what I said and how I said it. This person has clearly been triggered. Maybe they're having a bad day. You know, maybe their friends have been badly affected by things like this in the past. Okay, cool. And I look at it with compassion.
Mm.
And you know what I'm looking for, mate? You said, you know, going back to what you asked me at the start about 2021, what I want is calm, peace. You know, it sounds cheesy, but that's all I want. I just want calm, peaceful days. I don't want to waste my time fighting with people on social media. Frankly, I've never done that. I'm not interested. I just want to go about my work. I want to spread positive messages that are going to help people. I want to spend time with my wife, spend time with my kids, help my elderly mum who needs help these days. That's kind of enough for me.
Yeah, I think it's that, you know, bringing it down to such simple things really helps see that in your life. And that, you know, you used the word compassion before. And it's, you know, I do a lot of work with coaching clients, and a lot of what I work around is detachment, you know, just kind of what we're talking about when it comes to the, you know, the way we react to a negative or positive comment or whatever it may be. Because we think that a lot of the stuff that happens externally creates the way that we feel about it inside. So using the example, negative comment on Twitter, that makes me feel angry or sad. But the negative comment is no different to the positive comment, other than the way that we've interpreted it ourselves. And it's within the interpretation that then creates the way that we feel about it. So if you can recognize that, accept that that is what's going on, you can then learn to detach from, quite rightly, like you said, both the positive and the negative, because you can see both as an equal. Because you can't have a positive comment without there also being negative comments, because they're the same thing. They exist on the same coin. You know, they're the two sides of the same coin. So if you don't have negative comments, you'll never have positive, and vice versa. But if you can detach from the idea of either of them being positive or negative, in the way that you interpret them, then you live with that calm, that sense of freedom, because you can actually be a bit more like, oh, okay, I see what that person's saying. That's fine. Maybe it's something for me to reflect on, rather than me getting annoyed about it, rather than me working up in anger. Because how many times, does something like, I always use the example of like stubbing your toe, right? You could stub your toe when you get up from the desk as soon as we finish this conversation, and you could walk off thinking, oh, geez, like that really hurt. I'm such a klutz. Like I always, when I'm in a rush to do things, I'm always bumping my toe and da 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 da. Or you could equally get up tomorrow from your desk, stub your toe, and just be like, oh, silly me, I did it again. And it's like the stubbing of the toe hasn't been any different. It's the same action, it's the same act.
Yeah.
It's the interpretation of what that means to you that has created the way that you felt about it.
Yeah, the famous Viktor Frankl quote, between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response.
Yes.
Isn't quite what he said word for word, but effectively that is the gist of it. In that space is our power to choose. We've always got a choice, whether we think we do or not. Coming back to meditation, meditation trains our ability to make that space bigger. That space is a perception between whatever stresses you out and your response. There is time, and you can train yourself where that time becomes bigger. When I meditate regularly, I feel there's a real long gap between stimulus and response. I'm like, no, I'm going to choose to respond like this.